What's up, NorthShore? My name is Daniel, and welcome to the NorthShore Power Players Podcast. Our first guest today is going to be Interim DA Collin Sims. So, Collin, I actually put a poll out on Facebook before we came on and asked a couple people, said, what do you guys want me to ask Collin? The number one response is, what the heck is the district attorney? So, I'm going to give you that little softball there.
Sure.
What is DA? What does the DA do?
So the DA does a lot of things, but first and foremost, the DA is the chief prosecutor for St. Tammany and Washington Parish. All of law enforcement's arrests come to the DA's office to be evaluated for prosecution. The DA's office prosecutes criminals, but also intervenes in people's lives to help them get on the right path and rehabilitate. So it's kind of a dual role, protection, community safety, and intervention that arises mostly from criminal offenses. We also collect child support. We collect approximately $20 million a year in child support. We collect worthless checks, bad checks. We also represent civilly parish government. We have a civil office over there by Coop Drive. So civil representation, criminal prosecution for those who are arrested, worthless check collections, and non-support, people who don't pay child support, collections as well. So
that's awesome.
Multifaceted. And tickets. A lot of tickets.
I know a couple people out there are going to be mad about the ticket part,
Yes.
but guess what? That's part of the job, right? So,
Right.
Have you always wanted to be a DA? Like growing up, what did you want to be when you started out?
Never thought about being the DA. It was always about being a prosecutor and helping people.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of an early, felt like I was called to do that, compelled to do it, something that was very fulfilling. At 25, I started prosecuting at the DA's office in New Orleans. My wife and I just had our first baby, and I was commuting across the lake. It was kind of known as the charity hospital of litigation, and just had a passion for it. Loved it. Loved how it felt to help people who needed someone to speak up for them or stand up for them. And in New Orleans, that was very needed. Post-Katrina, you can think about, God, half of our evidence was washed away. Half my time was calling witnesses to say, at some point in time, we had evidence in this case, did we not? Yeah. But I just had a passion for it. I loved it. I still do. I love teaching it. It's hard to explain when you have that something inside that either burns or otherwise. That's how I feel about the job.
It sounds like it was like baptism by fire, starting out in Katrina and being a DA in New Orleans. That must have been interesting.
It is. You were going into New Orleans, you were thrown in. I spent a month in misdemeanors, and after a month, I was in a felony division of court.
Wow.
And it was kids teaching kids. You know, you had, and then you go up to the next person who's a little bit older, then the next person, and everyone just really helped each other navigate. I mean, major cases. I mean, talking about most horrific things you've seen. 25 years old out of law school, handling attempt murders and rapes, and I mean just horrific things, child abuse and arson, and you find the next person. Have you ever done this before? Yeah. And you're like, I'm about to go do X. Don't do that. Don't do that. And,
that's so funny.
And there was some other seasoned defense attorneys in the building that would say, hey, I used to be a prosecutor. Try this different next time. If someone would have asked that, you'd have been in trouble. And so just learning that way.
That's awesome. Let's go back a little bit, though. Let's talk about growing up. Like, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? All the things.
Mandeville. From Mandeville. At 3, I went to pre-K 3 over at Cedarwood. I used to have my little handprints in the concrete over there until they decided to expand, and they jackhammered all that up. But I went to school at Christ Episcopal. My mom's worked there for 35 years.
No way.
And my stepmom worked there at the same
Nice.
time, so couldn't get in trouble because everyone knew very quickly
They had eyes on
what
you.
was going on. And then went to St. Paul's and graduated from St. Paul's High School.
Now, I was told to ask about a potato gun incident,
Oh.
so let's hear about that one.
Man, I think they have strict rules now about what projects you can do. So we were in, I guess it was a physics class or one of the science classes. I wasn't good at science. And we built this potato launcher, and I think the teacher regretted sketching it out for us on how to do it. And at some point it wasn't working, and so you fill it up with the aerosol hairspray at the bottom, and we were clicking it, and it wasn't working. I stuck my head down there, kind of like Wile E. Coyote, and I clicked it, and this flame came up, and I think it was right before junior or senior prom. I had no eyelashes, I had no eyebrows, and the first mistake I made was run into a buddy's pool, splashing chlorine in my face. That made it worse.
Oh, no.
I was in the ER, and I had different friends' moms over me. I was just a mess. And then we had prom pictures like the next week.
That's fun. Actually, the new look is no eyebrows,
Is
no
it?
eyelashes. It's the new thing. Kids at home, you can tell me. Leave it in the comments. Is that the new look? That's the new thing. And then what about sports? You playing any sports growing up?
I did. Loved baseball, but I guess I could have been better at it. And then played football, did powerlifting growing up, and then I actually went to Mississippi College on a leadership scholarship. And me and a good friend of mine went over there to keep playing. He played longer than me. I got hurt a few times and called it a day.
I heard you played center field. There might have been an incident. I was told, a little birdie told me there was an incident center field.
So when I was, I'm going to explain why that happened first. So when I was younger, I was looking for a batting helmet outside of a dugout and took a foul ball line drive to the side of the head, and it fractured the bone behind my eye. So I was very limited in the positions I could play. If it was a night game, I couldn't tell where the ball was. So one time I was going back for a fly ball to the fence. It may have ricocheted off my forehead and gone over the fence for a home run, and I've never lived it down.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're that guy. Oh, yeah, that guy. I remember that.
We were winning until you couldn't catch. Yeah.
Ricochet off the forehead. I love it. So then tell me about, so I met your wife Elizabeth the other day, by the way, you guys. Like, she's the star of the show. Let me just tell you one thing. She is awesome. How'd you meet Elizabeth?
In college. We met.
What college? Mississippi?
Mississippi College.
Okay.
We met when we were 19. And, we were friends. I needed a date somewhere. And her roommate and I met first. And I had called there incidentally one night and ended up talking to Elizabeth on the phone. And I was like, man, this girl's pretty cool.
That's funny.
And had,
zero personality, right? Zero.
Oh.
She's got a ton of it. It's unbelievable.
She's in charge.
Yeah, she is in charge.
She's in charge, but she's amazing. Fell in love with her, and we've been together for, I can't do the math properly, but we've married for 18 years and been together since we were 19. So
and what does she do?
She's a nurse practitioner.
Nurse practitioner, okay.
Yep. She originally was going to go to vet school. I was supposed to go into the Air Force JAG Corps, but some medical things. Ultimately, I couldn't go. And she kind of gave up becoming a veterinarian because at the time we were going to move all over the place. And going to vet school was expensive.
Yeah.
And you can't pay those student loans back unless you have a practice that's stationary. So she ended up going into nursing and became a nurse practitioner.
And then you went into law?
Went into law school and been a prosecutor ever since. We used to have some incidents. She was at Toro working in the ER, and we talk about things. I'm like, oh, that's my case. There'd be some gunshot incident that came in. And
oh, that's funny.
Just, crossing paths.
In New Orleans, I'm sure there's all kinds of good stories. I'm not going to go into that yet. So you have 3 kids.
Yep.
I heard, 2 other stories, because I did my research, Collin. I did my research. So the first one that I was told to mention is ski slope. You left her on a ski slope, your fiance. Let's hear that one.
Oh, man. You were prepped.
I got the good ones.
You were prepped.
I got the good stuff.
Well, look, neither one of us had ever been skiing. And so we go with some friends. Oh, we'll show you. Next thing I know, we're on like Blues for our first ski deal. And I make it down, and I'm getting concerned. I'm down there at the bottom. I'm like, well, it's been 15 minutes.
Where is
it's been
she?
20 minutes. Where is she? She's like sliding down on her butt all the way down the deal, trying to pretend she's injured to get someone to take her down. She wasn't convincing enough.
Oh, that's funny.
They're like 5-year-olds swooshing past her. And,
Ski school passes her up.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's awesome. And so you have 3 kids. What age ranges?
16, 15, and 13.
Okay, and we have a good story with one of the kids when they were born in the hospital. Let's hear it.
Oh, wait. Is this where? Well, I may have said we were going to burn this place down.
Yeah.
So it was the scariest thing. I mean,
First one, was it the first one?
Second. It was our second kid. First one, everything was easy. And to this day, she's on autopilot. So from the beginning, she was our easiest child.
I love it.
Clay, he was in distress, man. He had his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, and it was kind of an emergency situation. Got him out. He was having trouble breathing, and it was the scariest thing ever. And so they take him because he has to be monitored, and so we're sleeping in the room. Well, this nurse comes in, and she's bawling, crying, and she's like, "Oh no, you're going to tell him." And we think like the worst has happened.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And it's like, oh, we just wanted to update you on something. I forget, it was like nominal. And we're like, what? And so different things were happening. And so he had this obstruction. He couldn't breathe. They're like, well, we don't want to have him feed yet because he can't breathe. Then like 5 minutes later, someone comes in. Oh, we're going to try to have him breathe. I'm like, oh, great. things have improved. They're like, no. I'm like, and so at some point I'm like, are we just rolling the dice here? Like, what's going on? But when that lady came in, I was unhinged. I was like, if something happens to my son,
Right.
and then like the doctors wouldn't come. I'm like, well, how far away is the doctor? And it was just the most bizarre thing because we had our first kid in St. Tammany.
Right.
We're over here in Lafayette. I'm like, this is not the same experience
Yeah,
as the
sure.
first one. And look, we were young kids, scared, and
That's why we love St. Tammany, right? We get heads up to St. Tammany, Dr. St. Tammany, Lakeview, the best on the North Shore. So let's go after law school. You get out. Where do you go to work? Where's your first job after law school?
DA's office in New Orleans.
Okay.
And went there, 25, prosecuting. Spent a month in the misdemeanor department, and then been a felony major crimes prosecutor ever since.
After New Orleans, where'd you go?
So
Did some international stuff, right?
Well, I targeted international criminals.
Okay.
And so at 27, I became one of the youngest assistant U.S. attorneys in the country. And so I became a federal prosecutor. I went to the Western District first and then the Eastern District, and spent my time targeting organized drug trafficking, money laundering, prosecuted guys in Gulf Cartel, did public corruption, investigated the DA's office, ran a bunch of wiretap investigations, did a lot of child exploitation work where I've, out of Lafayette, I would indict people in California, Georgia, Mississippi, Minnesota, and we'd pull them in because these guys were doing coordinated, pretty horrific things. Drug traffickers that supplied cocaine all the way from Brownsville, Texas, all the way to West Palm Beach, Florida, coordinating through dogfighting and Kennel Club magazines, and they were supplying cocaine everywhere. That was one of the, I'd say from a trial standpoint, that was the most educational experience I've ever had as a prosecutor.
Why do you say that?
I'm 27. This case it's called OCDF, Organized Drug Trafficking Task Force. It was the case of the year. And it was called Operation Foul Play. These guys were using chicken coops to smuggle bulk cash across the country, had trucking lines. These guys were trying to buy an oil refinery legitimately with drug money. I mean, they were spending like $300,000 in environmental testing. I had Spanish and English wiretaps running. These guys, DEA was very smart. They were picking these guys off, pretending to be animal control. So when they were having their chicken coops with cash, they were like, oh, animal health violations. They'd seize the cash. Well, these guys thought these other guys were stealing from them, and were listening to it play out. One guy was calling a witch doctor in Mexico to put curses on these guys, and then so later on, everyone pleads, but these two defendants are like, oh, we don't know anyone. And I'm hitting play on the guy, spelling the guy's name out and putting hexes on him from his witch doctor in Mexico.
That's so great. Oh, yeah. That's really good. At 27.
27. And these guys owed the cartel, one brother showed up, they owed the cartel 1-point-something million because DEA took 85 kilos of cocaine.
Yikes.
And 875,000 going different ways on the interstate.
It's not good to owe the cartel money. That's not in a position you want to be in.
But these guys had enough money. They showed up, here's 600 grand, and then the other brother came with 400, and they let the rest of it wash because they all grew up together in Mexico. Cash. That's how much money they had.
That's crazy. But how'd you end up back on the North Shore?
Well, at the time I was working in the Eastern District U.S. Attorney's Office, and I was doing a gang case called the Harvey Hustlers. And I indicted a few guys, and there was a particular defense attorney named Peter Strasser. He went on to become the U.S. Attorney. He was a longtime federal prosecutor, and him and Warren had worked together when they were younger. And long story short, Warren won the election. I gone to see him speak. When he made the runoff, my wife and I grabbed a couple of his pamphlets and just started hitting neighborhoods because I had seen what the old guard had looked like before and didn't much care for it, nor wanted to kind of reappear again. And knew Warren to be a really good man from a lot of guys, federal prosecutors I knew who knew him.
Yeah.
And I thought he was the right guy. Long story short, that guy says he didn't have a team picked out yet. And I said, hey, I grew up in Mandeville. I would love to go home and help fix an office that I thought was broken.
Nice.
And so we had a few meetings, hit it off. I think he vetted me through his guys, and I wasn't sure, And there was a guy named Bill McSherry who told me, Collin, because at first it was, why you want to leave the U.S. Attorney's Office? And I gave him my answer. And he said, Warren Montgomery will never ask you to do something you shouldn't do. And so I had a lot of comfort in that because I respected this guy.
Oh, yeah, stand up.
And Warren never did, man. He was a genuinely good guy. And the parish needed a good guy at the time
Yeah.
at the top of that organization.
Tell me a couple of lessons that you learned working under him. What did you learn? What did you observe? I know he's stand-up guy, really neat guy. Tell me about some of the lessons that you learned working under him.
Well, as a prosecutor, I am a talker, and I talk too much sometimes. And so one of the things I learned from him is listen more. Talk less and listen more. Hard to implement at times, but that was a big lesson. The other one is grace. Grace. Show grace, show mercy. Make a distinction between someone who's a criminal where we have to be prosecutors and do this, and look to help people. And I think I learned from him a balance of really exercising risk, but being led by doing a good thing. And if you're doing good, that's what it takes. And what I saw from him was everyone leads differently. Everyone doesn't have to be the same. I'm a little bit more vocal. He was more of a quiet leader. But when you have a reputation for doing the right thing and you care about what you're doing, people see it, they'll follow it, they'll get it, and it'll trickle down through your entire organization. And those are some of the major things that I learned from him.
Yeah. So obviously you're not a politician. You haven't run for office, so you're kind of thrown into this obviously by his untimely passing. So I'm sure that was a jolt for you and your family and for everybody. When the NorthShore, when we lost him, that was a really sad experience for a lot of people. But being thrust into this, you're not a politician. You didn't plan to do this. So tell me what some of the things that you didn't expect when you came in, because you're not a politician.
No.
So what are you seeing as now you're a politician? You're campaigning. What are some of the things that you're seeing as far as campaigning? The good stuff and the bad stuff. Like what are you learning? Who are you meeting? Versus some of the things that have been hard that you're just now getting to grasp about.
It's tough. I said the beginning part was very difficult. There was a lot of guilt. You go from, look, I got to go see Warren before he passed. His wife called and said, come soon. I scooped up his secretary, went up there, and he was fighting this infection. And they said the next 48 hours will kind of tell us where he is. Now, I'm driving home with the secretary. 48 hours turned into 3. And he passed away. And it was just so quick. And he was suffering. And so automatically we're in a special election. The guilt of having to jump right into politics felt, I never was in politics, so I don't know how politics feels, but this felt wrong. And now I have to go to restructure the office, get things in place, stabilize the ranks so we continue to execute the mission, and then go jump into something I've never done before.
Sure.
Now, luckily, some of the family had come to speak with me and said, hey, look, please have something together.
Yeah.
Because no one wanted to see everything that was built undone.
Right.
Because it's not just a prosecution office. It's an office that stands for something bigger than just prosecution and whatnot. It's a justice center. You help people. It's not supposed to be about the connected and the good old boys and all those things. And that's what he stood for. And that's what we all wanted to protect it from. And then now you're in politics. And it's interesting to see people that they know there's a difference between the candidates and know that, and it's not saying one's better than the other, because I don't want to get onto that. But here's a guy that has, and looking at myself, that has for almost 18 years done the job, sacrificed to do it, feel a certain way about it, passionate about it, and there's somebody else. Regardless of what you've done, I've learned it's not about a resume. And you would think that it's just one big job application to the public. And you'd say, well, here's this guy's resume. This is what he's done. And here's the other guy. Well, who would you hire? Because it's the public making a hiring decision. No, it's so much more than that. And it's hard to explain, but it's definitely foreign to me because I'm very direct and open.
Right.
And there's a lot of motivating things that have nothing to do with prosecution, keeping the community safe, helping people. And it's more about, this is a shiny object that is very powerful and can be controlled, and people want their foot in the door for that.
Yeah.
I'm not your guy for that, and I own that. I'm your guy if you want the substance and the work. But being a citizen here, I would sit there and say, God, this is our home. Like, why is this about something that is not what it should be? It's not pure. And that's just how I see things. And so that's hard for me to get over that hurdle. And I'm so black and white when it comes to that. There's right and there's wrong. Now, I know there's a lot of gray area in helping people. That's a different subject.
Sure.
But in politics, to me, it gets to be too much what can be done for me and not about what makes sense for St. Tammany and keeping us safe and the place where I've grown up and preserving that.
Right.
You know, and I just struggle with it.
Yeah, we're talking about preserving Warren's legacy, right? Is one of the things that you want to do. I know that in office. So preserving his legacy. Talk about some of the goals that you have. Preserving his legacy and some of the goals that you have for the office that you want to achieve during your time as the new DA if you get elected to it.
Well, we both shared a common goal of making sure the office was never manipulated for personal gain. We don't allow private practices because those things have an inherent conflict with executing the mission of the office. Prior to that, there were special people tapped that were allowed to have private practices while you as a taxpayer paid them to be a public servant. And that's not what it's about. It's not about enriching ourselves. It's about serving the public. I got no problem with capitalism and all those things,
Sure.
but it doesn't have a
Your
place.
problem with corruption.
I do, and it breeds it. If I have this guaranteed check and this opportunity to chase other money, which book of business is not going to be attended to?
Right.
And I just think it's natural, plus other conflicts. So making sure that never happens again, because that's kind of what got that office in trouble in the past, along with campaign finance and other things. It's a clear mission of the office, making sure it stays pure. A balanced office where before it was kind of that Saint Slamity mentality. A stat was a stat, meaning that no one cared if it was simple possession or it was a rape trial, right? They just wanted numbers to tell the public we're doing something. I want to make sure that that doesn't matter and that it's about being impactful, right? Impactful in getting justice for a real crime, a real victim, and impactful for helping people and giving people second chances that aren't violent offenders who have never had an opportunity. Now, if you become habitual, well, then we have to do something different. Yeah. But again, to give you the opportunity to have a balanced approach, that grace and that justice and mercy balance that Warren has taught me, and we've taught that to the ADAs, that's got to stay preserved because that office can be so impactful for more ways than just being a prosecutor. And again, never letting this good old boys club, and that's what Warren fought for. Warren was battling cancer when he ran against the same guy I'm running against last time. And that was so important to protect the office from letting these things come back in that honestly, he would be at MD Anderson. I had to go show up to debate his opponent because he was going through all this treatment. But he fought for it, and I think at some point his health took a toll.
Yeah.
But it was important, and it was something bigger than him, and he saw it as a calling and a mission.
Right.
Want to preserve that. I never want to see that office go backwards. He didn't want to see it go backwards, and I think that is one of the largest things to preserve.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I know that one of the biggest things that we have on the St. Tammany is we have two things: is a lot of mental health issues, right? We have a big suicide rate, a lot of mental health, but also we have a lot of drug problems. So we have prescription medication. We also have stuff coming across. Tell us a little bit about mental health and advocacy for that, because obviously mental health leads to other things, and people commit crimes that probably wouldn't have if they didn't get proper treatment. So talk to me a little bit about mental health, what your thoughts are on that part.
So bear with me here for a minute. So a large reason that I feel a certain way about this job is I've personally seen what drugs do to a family and what mental health does to a family.
How so?
Well, I had brothers, and I had one particular brother, former Army Ranger, probably always had undiagnosed mental health issues, bipolar, and masked it with substance abuse. And him and my other brother had started a company called Pontchartrain Movers, very successful. My other brother, very smart, had a master's degree in probability and statistics from Auburn, taught calculus, very good-looking guy too. And they decided to go into business together. And my dad begged my other brother, please don't go into business with your brother. Begged him. And no, Dad, we're going to do it. And they did it. Well, so brother one gets a drug addiction and ends up stealing and selling people stuff out of their units, and just then skips town, goes and does some crazy stuff in Oregon, becomes a smoke jumper, jumping out of planes, putting out fires. And I hadn't talked to him in 20 years. He's in and out of being homeless and in jail, various other things. And my other brother was left with all the debt and crisis to clean up. And probably battled depression too. I know he did. And ultimately committed suicide. And I remember the night I was studying for the LSAT, and I went to one of these classes. My dad had some work in Houston. I was like, I'll take a ride with you. And
How old were you?
I was 21.
Wow.
22, 21, something like that. And I remember I was watching the Spurs basketball game, and I told my boss, I'll call you later. I'll watch this game, and I fell asleep. And I never made that phone call, and got the news the next morning. So, for me, it is important to be impactful, not just for prosecution, but for intervening in someone's life to help them, when it's missed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's a big thing is, mental health, then that leads to substance abuse, right? Whether it's alcohol or drugs, right? So on the North Shore, with the drug issue that we have, what are some solutions that you can think of that would help to combat the, obviously the drug problem, but also the mental health problem, directing people to the right areas where they can get help, they can seek help. It's not a stigma like, hey, we need, ask for the help. We'll give it to you. Like, if you're a criminal and you are, you're going down the wrong path, like we want to help people.
Yeah.
We give them a certain amount of chances, and then obviously if they continue to make these wrong moves, then you have to throw the book at them. But we want to give some grace there and offer help when it's needed if they ask for it, right? So what are some thoughts as far as helping people with substance abuse problems, with mental health issues that we could do on the North Shore to just kind of combat a little bit of that?
Well, it's critically important. I've spent the last, I guess, since 2016, 15, I've been on the Safe Haven Advisory Board over there, and it is a phenomenal concept to have all of these services, addictive services, mental health services on one campus to help people. And so early identification is critical, but also making sure that people feel confident that if they self-identify, that Operation Angel program that was started a long time ago for people to say, I am an addict, I have a problem, I have drugs, I want somewhere to go, and not worry about the criminal arm of things and feeling safe to go get that help. When people want help and they reach out, we got to do that and not stigmatize it. That's critical. If it comes through the criminal system, we operate a diversionary program where if you're a first-time nonviolent offender and you go do the programs and get the help that we are directing you to, you walk away without a conviction. And if you've come to us a few times, we have specialty court programs, mental health court, sobriety court, drug court. We helped build the Veterans Court program, which didn't exist before, reentry court. All of these different programs. Judge Zollbrecher has this AOT court that is a completely non-criminal program. It's this involuntary outpatient treatment program. But these are guys that have real mental health issues with diagnosis and whatnot. There are so many programs in St. Tammany Parish that we can funnel people to. The key is early identification. And we have changed the timing in which we do it. Historically, for guys that came through that were arrested, look, law enforcement writes reports. Then there's drug testing if it's drugs. And someone who's been arrested sits in jail if they're indigent for, it can be 60 days before these reports even come to us where we charge them. Then they're arraigned. They plead guilty or not guilty. They get an attorney. All this time ticks by to finally someone says, hey, my client is interested in X. We've changed it where we create a profile and we identify them within 2 weeks of arrest. And we bring them to Judge Schwartz now and says, hey, you qualify for the following. We don't have any reports yet. We don't have these things, but I know what you've been arrested for and I know what your history is. Are you willing to be evaluated and go into one of the specialty court programs now? If you do, we'll charge you immediately. You go into the program. But I created a plea agreement that protects all of their rights so that when we get discovery, if they want to challenge things, I'll let them undo the entire plea, start over as if it's never happened. And the worst thing that happened was they got out of jail. You as a taxpayer weren't paying to house them, and they got treatment and some help. They're probably going to continue their treatment program, and we'll never see them again, hopefully, because those who complete our programs only reoffend 8 to 12% of the time, as opposed to 50% in Louisiana, which is the average. So very good program. So it saves you money, $30 a day, not to house them as a taxpayer. And it ramps up the success rate of this person who can't afford to get out. Can you imagine being someone who's got a mental health problem and not getting your meds in jail? And whatever caused you to get there was X. Think about how much worse it is once you're sitting there.
Oh, sure.
So early identifying these guys is critical. And we just, 3 months ago, we started that program.
That's
and
awesome.
We'll have a year to track it, and I'll be able to report back to tell you how much money was saved and how many more people we helped.
That's awesome. Because if you're going through a hard time and you're sitting there in jail, you're racking up bills, you're not getting your medicine. So when you get out, you turn back to what you know, drugs and crime, because you come in such at a depth you can't get out of it. You feel like, hey, I got to just turn back and make some money back again. So the longer they sit in jail, the worse it's going to be when they get back out, because they're going to have family problems, relationship problems, all the things that lead with that. And then obviously money problems, because they're going to have to pay a lawyer and bail and everything. So that's a great program. Tell me a little bit about the Angel program.
Well, it was Operation Angel. If you remember, former Chief of Police Tim Lentz has started it, and it was kind of, you can come in if you have drugs or otherwise, self-surrender, no question asked. They'll help take you to a rehabilitation place. They partnered with the New Orleans Mission, a faith-based, holistic approach to trying to help people get off drugs. So they offered rides out there to help people. It was a very good program. So he did a good job with that. The other thing I was going to tell you, for people who have nothing to lose, so if you've taken away employment, taken all these things,
right.
If I've got nothing to lose, why do I care?
There's no incentive.
If I've got something to lose,
better.
And the other component we added was we did an MOU with NorthShore Technical Community College, that if the guys not only go through the rehabilitation programs and they do a vocational component, I'll let them earn a misdemeanor.
Nice.
And so that's an additional thing that,
because those felonies stay on your record. Every time you go to get a job, you have to talk about it, and that brings it back up, and then you can't get a good job, which leads to them going it. Yeah, so that's really neat.
But all we can do is provide opportunities. If someone takes advantage of the opportunities, reward them. If they don't take advantage of the opportunities, well, we can handle the system like the system knows how to do it.
Right.
But it's the opportunity.
I like that. So tell me, so we have an election coming up on March 23rd, coming up fast.
Yes.
Tell the people, why should we vote for you, Collin Sims, to continue the Warren's legacy? Why should they vote for you over your opponent?
A couple of things. One is I kind of look at Warren and myself as kind of kink in the hose of these good old boy guys who used to run things around here. We are in their way. I will make sure and protect that office to make sure it's always about seeking justice and doing the job and doing the job only, not backdoor room favors and having side practices and trying to get wealthy off the system. That will never happen as long as I'm district attorney. And that was one of the biggest things Warren stood for, is a change of the good old boy system and not going backwards. I've spent my entire career in the courtroom, investigating crimes, trying cases, intervening in people's lives to help them, both from a victim standpoint and a low-level defendant standpoint. Done it for almost 18 years. I've supervised over 100 people. I've managed an entire criminal budget. I've done the hiring. I've done everything in this business. I'm running against a guy who's never, not one time, stepped in a felony courtroom. As a prosecutor, he's never picked a jury and gone to trial and tried a case in front of a jury. As a defense attorney for 18 years, he's never defended a client in front of a jury for a felony. Not one time has he ever did it. And he sat at a DA's office for Walter Reed for 6 years. Now, he's one of those guys who went and built this private practice on the side while taxpayers were paying him. So never did he try to be impactful. People should look to see what has someone done, not what they tell you they want to do or who they want to be.
Right.
Being DA is not important. Doing the job, helping people is important. And I've been doing it for almost 18 years. And my opponent has spent the last 18 years being a defense attorney and a divorce lawyer and has never even met a defendant who needed to go to trial and needed full representation. That's the biggest difference. I've done it my whole life. I'm going to be a hands-on DA. I've been a hands-on supervisor. You can't lead people in this job if you've never done it. You can't go shoulder to show people if you've never run a docket. You've never looked at a little girl or gotten justice for people. And I would say those types of cases, especially, to have people relive their worst moments in life in front of a jury of strangers and teach people how to do that, you can't do it if you've never done it. And
Yeah.
I've been doing it my whole life, and he's never done it once.
Yeah, it sounds like you have some experience doing it throughout your career, right? So you kind of have the back knowledge. Plus, you've been doing it currently in Warren's absence, so we appreciate that. So March 23rd is the election. Do we have early voting before
March
that?
9th. Sorry,
March
early
9th. All right, early voting March 9th on Coop Drive, is that correct?
Coop Drive, but you can also early vote right by the Justice Center, right across from, right at the Registrar of Voters office,
Yes.
right with the
And
parking
what about in
garage.
Slidell? They have a place in Slidell as well.
They do. I don't know where it is.
They do have options. We have options, you guys. So y'all get out and vote March 9th. Starting March 9th is early voting, and then obviously the election day is March 23rd. So it's coming up fast. So do your research, you guys. That's why we wanted to have Collin on the podcast. So we're going to obviously release this so you can watch the whole thing unedited, get to know a little bit about him, and just kind of find out exactly what a district attorney does, his career, and I can tell you're well overqualified. You have the experience, so we really appreciate you, Collin. Thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate it, and you guys, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you.
Good job.